My name is Layla Comings, and I'm a volunteer and coordinating member of an outreach team led by Wayne Alshire. We directly serve low-income families and children as well as our local homeless population. A few months ago, my friend Tanya Anderson and I drove to Austin, Texas for a street retreat sponsored by Community First Village. They sent us into the streets of Austin with not much more than a sleeping bag and a water bottle for 3 days in order to experience homelessness firsthand for ourselves. But the experience taught us things you can't see in pictures, like how differently people treat you when you're homeless, or how much anxiety comes from not having access to a bathroom. Businesses with public restrooms often won't allow a homeless person to use their facility. And when I woke up at 5 a.m. on the sidewalk, the only option was a porta potty. But when I got there, it was padlocked. We literally had no choice but to find a shrub. We also didn't anticipate how heat exhausted, dirty, smelly, and disgusting we would be before our first 24 hours on the streets. I had to wash in a slimy creek. I had blisters the size of walnuts on my feet already. We walked and walked and walked. You go into survival mode within just a few hours on the streets, and at one point all I wanted to do was sit and rest in a public park. My guide said not to get too comfortable because the police usually purge the homeless people from there when they come by. But in that moment, I was thinking, nuh-uh, I don't think so. I'm going to sit right here, let them try to make me leave. Only 24 hours on the street, and my mind was stretched enough to try to take on the police. And by day 2, I woke up wishing I had a beer. I don't even drink, but it seemed like it might make me hurt a little less. The thought of facing another day out there was just that agonizing. I felt like an outcast, invisible, worthless, depressed, sick and tired, and I'd only been homeless less than 48 hours. I simply couldn't imagine myself being hired for a new job in that condition either. I discovered there's really no place a homeless person is allowed to be except the library. You aren't allowed to exist anywhere else, especially after dark. How is it that we think we can take away a person's right to freely occupy each and every sort of space available out of doors when they don't have a house and the shelter is full? We met a few other people who were homeless out there. Each had a different story to tell, and I found they only had one thing in common other than homelessness, and that was trauma. Each one had suffered major trauma as a child or in a war. Homeless people are called lazy all the time, but it was impossible to be lazy out there. The people we met weren't lazy. They were broken. William's father pimped him out to pedophiles at 10 years old. Wheelchair Mike was a disabled vet who had served 3 tours of duty. Rebecca grew up watching her mother make bestiality porn for a living. By the time we returned to the village, 48 hours felt more like a month. The streets were a living hell, and the village was like heaven. Homeless people aren't the problem, they're a result of the problem. Community First Village is now the largest community-based model in the country. They have found a successful solution to permanently house hundreds of their displaced citizens. 4 minutes is not enough time for me to outline all the details, but I brought the ULI case study for review.